Hello everyone. Now, it's still the Easter holidays, so we still need to just chill, take a moment to not have anything new necessarily to do. So I want to write a newsletter, but I realised that actually lots of stuff's been happening and there's lots of advice and guidance, and a lot of it is all about work. And so I thought I'll send the newsletter on Monday when we're back at Rosebery Remote. But before then, you need something on a Friday to keep you going. So I thought I'd let you into the last little place that we haven't really explored. You've seen my tiny kitchen, you've seen the tiny garden, you've seen my front garden, but the one place you haven't seen is the bit that I rent. And in the wonderful world of Britain, it's my allotment. So here is a little Friday tour of Phillips's allotment. There's a possibility that after this you might kind of understand where my optimism comes from, or has been developed, or has been grown, or something like that. Well, that was an unintended pun. So, as far as the eye can see, all of this is mine, and it cost me £120 a year. Thank you, allotments. And ultimately, it's a culmination of me changing my mind constantly, but also trying to make sure that I look after things long enough for there to be something to eat. So on my front border, we have my true love, which is apples. And I have to say, this time of year, I'm sure there are places and waterfalls and stunning things all over the world, but apple blossom for me. Beautiful, and the smell is so delicate and delightful. But what you're looking at across from here is my fruit cage. So lots of currants, lots of soft fruits that lots of birds would love, and so I had to put a cage around it so the birds couldn't always have it. And we've got some blueberries sunk in pots so that you can keep the soil different to our very alkaline, very chalky soil around here, and they need some acidic soil or else they can't get their iron. So I've sunk them in pots so they can still get the moisture from the surrounding soil, but I can change its abiotic factors. And then you come to probably the part of it that I've had the longest, and you can see some rather colourful things. We'll come to those in a moment. Occasionally, we do grow some vegetables. Now, this could be this year's first pre-failure. There's meant to be potatoes in there, but no one's got any potatoes. All the garden centre's shut, and my order has still not arrived. Never mind. Here's last year's broccoli and spinach plants. They're going to seed. I've let them go to seed. Let the broccoli go to seed because it's a wonderful source of nectar, early nectar for the bees. And also, of course, they're pollinating it, and I'll be able to use the seeds for free. Hurrah. And the same with the spinach. It's a great plant. We don't eat huge amounts of it, but my family like it, and so do the rabbits. So we'll get the seed from those. And then it doesn't look like much, but this is the roots veg bed. And right down here, you can see a few parsnips. So there's little parsnips. There you go. There's little parsnips all on there. And then 2 rows of carrots coming up. So they're roots, and then they were sown very early, and then a few weeks later the next few rows, and they just look like dirt. It's absolutely fine. And then let's go to the colourful bit. Well, I had to give Annabelle part of it. So this is Annabelle's territory. Some of you may remember from our video. There is her bird feeder. Very welcoming. They have eaten some of it. Very helpful sign I've just noticed there. For those birds that can read, the food is down here. Brilliant. So I built that. It used to be smaller. I did an extension on it because the secret to having an allotment is actually about the building, not the vegetable growing. And you'll also see the awful lot of dirt ends up on the allotment that family or my wife don't want in the house anymore. And I go, well, okay, don't like to throw things away. And then you'll see this other very colourful construction. And this example of Phillips favela building, not to demean those that do live in a favela, is our chicken coop. Now, unfortunately, there's no chickens in there at the moment, And that's because despite its ramshackle look, it's only ever fallen foul of the fox once. And the fox got up onto this and just sat there chewing through the wire and then pushed in. And the sad thing, very depressing for Annabelle, the sad thing about foxes is they jump in, no matter how many birds are in there, they kill them all, but they only take one at a time. So all the birds were dead, and we've got a little secret brewing as to how we're going to restock that. And then we come to this other bed. Now, some of you might be listening still, and that was the roots bed. And here, all of these share something in common, and they're all part of the allium family. So garlic, onions, then leeks. You can put things like fennel. They're not, strictly speaking, alliums, but they'll cope. And you get to the next thing that we use the allotment for, or I use the allotment for, is experiments. Now here, this does grow wild, but that is a hop plant, and hops provide the flavour and also the disinfectant properties to beer and lagers. So that's for a little experiment in brewing. Other experiments, these look like twigs. Well, they are. That's because they are twigs. These are actually apple trees as well, and these are apple trees, but we don't let them blossom, and we mound the earth up really high so that if I ever want this beautiful apple tree again, if I ever moved or was chucked off the allotment, what I could do is I could take a cutting from this tree and I could splice it and graft it onto this tree, and what I would get is a really vigorous but not too big apple tree. So this is a row of rootstocks, and they're dwarfing rootstocks because apple trees should naturally be almost as big as that ungrafted cherry tree, which is far too big. What other silly things have we got? Well, here we've got a kiwi vine. To indicate why the kiwi vine will grow here is the kiwi is also known by another name as the Chinese gooseberry, and this is a female plant. So lots of plants have a male and a female version, and that is a female, and it does get pollinated by other kiwi vines on the allotment, so we get kiwis off it. And then we have a thornless blackberry up there. So that's kind of the first two main beds. This gets a special mention. This is my fruit arch, mostly apples with the odd pear in there, and you walk underneath it, go past a bramley and a cherry, and then you can get to the next big bed. Now, this is where my planting system goes to pot. This is going to have another family of plants, vegetables, called the legumes, your peas, your beans, all those sorts of things. But last year, the garlic didn't do brilliantly, so I didn't harvest it, because actually I've let it to grow so that I can just have use the leaves to flavour food, but also I can either have tiny cloves and chop them up like spring onions, but they were garlicky, or I can actually let them grow out and then take each clove and grow them again next year for a full garlic bulb. So there we go, all these little experiments. And then we come to the source of optimism, because when you garden, nothing is instant. And here is the powerhouse of the allotment. This is where all the seedlings grow. Now, you have to be optimistic when you garden, when you have an allotment. We've had lots of wind and lots of rain, and this construction used to be in the garden, then it fell down, so I brought it to the allotment and it fell down 2-3 times. This is my latest incarnation. Never give up, never give up, keep trying, because as you can see, this is where all the garden plants start their life, all the allotment plants. And there's theories behind everything. You won't be that interested. Deep roots for the legumes. They don't like their roots disturbed when you replant them. And then we've just done it. It's that time of year. It's that really busy time of year. And well, very Mendelian in there, but you can't see anything. Wrinkled peas, round peas. MENDEL fans will understand what I mean. And then we've got celeriac, onions, leeks, more leeks, and then Annabelle has planted some catnip for the cats, And then there's some really old seeds that I was just testing, and actually going to get a few tomato plants out of them. I'm just going to show you one job that I'm rubbish at and very rarely do properly, and that is, despite my biological background, I'm very disinclined to do what needs to be done here. So this is a nice tomato, and ultimately you sow a few seeds to see which ones work, but if I leave these growing, they will start to compete. So I have to choose a winner. It's almost like selective breeding. I'm so awful at doing this. I always feel sorry for them and don't bother. So there you go, I'm sorry, you're dead. And then I go, oh, which one's the biggest? Which one's the biggest? Which one's doing the best? Which one's got the best genes? And you have to discard the others. I find it soul destroying. I always want to give everything a go. But actually, if I do that, then the ones that are left won't grow very well. And don't think that there are not disasters ahead. Potential for failure is only ever moments away. Where this year I transplanted all the strawberries to try and get them in early, to get early strawberries rather, and it turns out that might be quite prudent. These are those tower of strawberries. There's a different sort. They're the white ones, sometimes called pine berries, but they taste a bit pineapple-y, and Annabelle absolutely loves them. And then we've got some sunflowers, Team Science. There's my sunflowers. They're not going to be giant ones, but they're going to be fun. So I talked to you about positive attitude. Well, to garden, you have to be positive. You can prep everything, you can work as hard as you like, but bad things happen to good plants. And just these were actually quite expensive. These are grafted vegetables, usually absolutely fabulous and work really well. But unfortunately, look, 1 tomato, 2 tomato, no 3rd tomato. That's because I planted them and the next day a slug had eaten them. The same has happened to all but one of my cucumbers, and you just have to roll with it. Things are going to fail. Things are not going to go right, and you keep trying, keep plugging away, and there's no instant gratification. The closest you get in gardening to vegetable gardening to instant gratification is these 3 rows, planted about 3 weeks ago. They're radishes. They're very quick, and I got all excited, said it's okay darling, we'll have radishes soon because they grow so quickly. Just literally looked at me and went, but none of us like radishes. Yeah, but that's not the point. I had some seed and I thought I'd plant them. They're spring onions, they're lettuces, that's salad leaves, and then some more spring onions. So the polytunnel is going to produce a lot of the really lovely veg. So we've already got some grafted tomatoes and aubergines. The aubergine tomato seedlings will come in here until it's all crammed to the rafters. That is horse poo, which we keep nice and wet and warm and rotting down. And so this is where we come for the real Mediterranean veg that wouldn't grow. And because I love the fruit arch and fruit trees so much, I started another one. This one's got a plum that's not very happy, doesn't produce many plums. Another very early pear, all been done and dusted. And that's another pear. And then, because you're always working with nature, I've got a wildlife garden which provides water for the bees and the pollinating insects, provides opportunities for frogs and toads. The frogs and toads in theory should come and eat slugs. It doesn't always happen. There you have it. So there you go. And here, the sort of workstation of it all, code dumping ground for all of our tut. There you go. I've even cleaned that out in the time. The ironic shed tidy box untidily on a chair. So that was massively indulgent of me to show you what happens on the allotment, but I only mentioned perhaps once or twice why it can help you, and the thoughts of a gardener can help you to be positive at any time in your life, but perhaps especially now. And that is because everything takes time. And you know there's going to be failures, you know there's going to be things that go wrong, you know there's going to be that snail that gets into the greenhouse and just cuts off the bottom of every seedling in the tray. And don't get me wrong, that is gutting. And if it happens at the wrong time of year, there's nothing you can do about it. That's that plant can't be there, you're not going to be able to grow it this year. If it happens early enough, you rescue what you can, you sow some more seeds, and maybe you just grow some things at different time to when you planned it. So that's the first lesson, that life is difficult, failures can happen, but if you plug away, then you'll get rewards. It's not just season in season and the months it takes to grow a vegetable that takes time. Listen to that wren. But also when you're looking through here, the whole thing took time, and it will change. It changes all of the time. One year to the next, one moment, one day to the next. This is 15 years in the making, and the plots themselves have been here for 150 years as allotments. You've got to give yourselves a chance. That's what I'd say. Give yourselves a chance. Failures are just moments on a journey, and successes too. There's also the strength that you can gain just by having to sit sometimes when you have a job to do, and it gets you to sit down and you're quiet and you listen. And without quite as much traffic, you can even hear the buzz of the bees. There was a wren in the background, there was also a robin. I think there was also a blue tit twittering around. And there's that just strength that you gain from being amongst nature. And then that battle, that long-term battle. But the real thing that all this teaches you is that the best things take time. They take care, they take love, they take dedication. And despite all the possible failures, if your choice is to try or not to try for fear of failure, then I say try. Because in 4 to 6 months' time, this tiny little moment, this package of information will grow first as just a green shoot, then some leaves, then we'll have to plant it on, then we'll have to never miss a watering, we'll have to think, where are we going to put it, what are we going to do with it, and then perhaps there is that hope that you'll get that beautiful, beautiful moment where in actual fact all you do is either enjoy the flower, enjoy what you made, what you created, through that love, that care, that dedication, that time you invested in it. Or in actual fact, in the case of calendula, you rip off the petals, chuck them in a salad and go, look at me with my wonderful peppery middle class pretentiousness. All sorts. Hang in there everyone. Happy Friday.